Hey everyone, LiveLock here, and this week I'll probably do two videos. This video is going to be a horrible video, just because the experiment I was trying with Wolf Doctor Witchbones didn't pan out like I wanted it to, and I figure it's like not the worst thing in the world to actually put out bad keys for people that are trying to learn things and experiment a bit. Um, this key is all about me trying to make single target builds work in Mythic Plus, and I wasn't really able to do it. This first pull ends up being a good example. I'm not the best with Wolf Doctor Witchbones right now, so that's obviously a factor. Maybe somebody that's better with it could do a bit better with it than me, but I'm basically running the raid build. And the reason that I'm doing this is because the last tyrannical week that we had on DoS, I failed to kill the totem as PLA, and that sent me down this whole path of like, well, like what if PLA isn't the best, and you know, whenever for some reason, like I've got this brain problem where if everything is obvious and everyone agrees on what the best way to do something is, I can't accept it, and I have to like keep on looking for other alternatives. Um, I think I think PLA probably is the best, but I really wanted to make sure that like Wolf Doctor Witchbones raid build like wasn't actually viable. So I tweaked it a little bit. Like I went with a Hailstorm. You can see in the top left the talents here. I stuck with Lava Lash. I went with Elemental Blast. I probably should have swapped out Elemental Blast for Lashing Flames just for the overall gain, because you'll see in the end of this key, um, end up with like a terrible overall like 11K I think, and it's lower than it would have been. I think it would have been around like, I don't know, maybe like 12K if you'll see that there's like this weird bug on the Arden World boss that makes me basically miss the boss fight. But that aside, it would have been a little bit better, but not good enough, I think, to just to justify actually running it seriously. So like here, Arden World is a good example for this because like I'm doing all the cool stuff. I'm doing like the double dog pack, sorry, the double dog burst with Dreamweaver. Dreamweaver obviously not the best choice this week because there's no chance you're gonna be able to stand in your stupid haste buff, but you do have a lot of dogs, and I kind of wanted to make this work. Like it's not terrible in terms of AOE. Like 20K, I probably would be like 10 to 15K higher if I was doing PLA, but the whole point of this isn't to do like big AoE damage. It's to try and do like big single target damage. So I didn't really mind that the overall was like lower if it was reasonably lower. But here you can see like the my rogue now has 4 set and the warlock has 2 set. So they can easily pick up the slack in like a 20. Maybe in higher keys this wouldn't have even been plausible because we would need everybody to be doing, sufficient AoE damage on a high enough tyrannical key at least. But even on those keys, the bottleneck is going to be the boss damage. So I knew that the boss damage was not great with PLA, and I wanted to see like if it was better with this. And long story short, it is better, but not that much better. Or warlocks are just overpowered and rogues are overpowered. Like, like they have a lot better overall without having to make the giant sacrifice that I had to make in my overall, just to get the better single target damage. So usually, yeah, you can see like 18s, 16K on these larger packs. We don't have a lot of good options in general for uncapped AoE, so it's like, we're not that good in the first place, and now I took away what little options I had, which was Lashing Flames. But the problem that I had, like the reason that I thought that would be a good idea would be Lashing Flames in these giant pulls is just really hard to actually do because you have to tab to like the mob that actually has Flame Shock on it. And there's like 40 mobs here. Like, there's no chance you're gonna like, tab to them by chance, right? Like, I'll just end up not finding the right mob. I think maybe Fire Nova would have been a lot more overall, obviously, but am I gonna use these dogs? I haven't gotten used to using the dogs yet. I should be using this dog right now. Otherwise, like, what's the point? Like, why did I even bother doing Dreamweaver? So I would have been, a little bit higher overall, but dogs aren't that good for AoE. Especially because I if I get double fire dogs, I can't even, get that buff with Fire Nova. So, yeah, Lashing Flames not very practical in large pulls because like it's just a pain in the butt to actually apply it to the right targets when you're doing this. Like now I have double fire dogs, but it doesn't really matter. I don't even know if double fire dogs even affects sundering actually, because isn't it? It's not fire damage. It's like some special kind of damage type. But so this whole pull, you can tell I'm like, this is usually the place where you pad your overall, and I'm going up to like 16k overall. So you can tell that it's like kind of all down here, downhill from here in terms of overall. The rest of Ardenworld is more or less the same. I think the important parts are the bosses. I've made the point now that AoE isn't going to be good, right? Like, we don't have tools. We have lots of Maelstrom in this build, so that means we have lots of dogs. But Maelstrom doesn't translate into AoE because it can only be spent on Elemental Blast, Lightning Bolt, and Chain Lightning. And Chain Lightning is 3 targets, so that's as good as you're going to really do. I'm going to skip ahead to the Ardenworld boss, just briefly, because there's like a weird bug. So PSA, this will be a PSA for people. Basically, don't release right after the AoE blast, otherwise it will still hit you somehow. And then I end up like wasting 2 B-reses from our team here. But in the beginning, I should at least have decent overall, like, or sorry, decent damage on the boss, because this is a single target build. So I go up, I do the bomb thing, tragically. I'm upwards of like 20k here on the boss, but only because like, well here, I'll put it in. So if we look at, oh no, I don't have the, sadly, I don't have the damage for this one, but only really because I had big pad on those little ads over there. But compared with PLA, like these are PLA-like numbers as far as the boss damage goes, and that's because in this pack, we pulled in these separate little ads. And that means, like, in PLA, I would have had maybe a hot hands window with big lava lashes, which would be more than good enough, I think, for this boss. So, I mean, that tells me that, like, rather than me sacrificing all of my AoE for Tyrannical Key, what we should really do is maybe, like, pull around my damage profile in the form of pulling in, little ads like that during boss fights. So, it's not going great right now, as you can tell. I can't see the proportion of damage on the boss versus damage in general right now, unfortunately, but I'm pretty sure it's like all against me. I got unlucky with mechanics there, and I'm about to die. Our priest goes up a little bit too late and kills me, and here's where like the bug comes in. So this is basically the only useful part of this this fight at this point. I got killed by the bomb going up, and I have a Ankh, and I'm going to wait until after this bomb to Ankh. I'll even slow it way down. So the bomb goes off, I reincarnate, and then I immediately die to that explosion that just went off. Yeah, the explosive contrivance. So that is like, that was like, what? I don't understand. Like, maybe I did it a little bit too soon, but then I get a battle res, and then we'll see. Hang on. I'm sure my teammates wouldn't let me be dead forever. I'm sure they care about my overall. Yeah, so here's my battle res. I do the exact same thing, and then the explosive contrivance goes off. It's done. I accept. I'm dead. So I don't know how long you have to wait to accept the V-res on this fight. I don't know why this game is so weird like that all the time, but PSA, just don't press accept to click on this fight, I guess. I'm not sure. But you can tell, I mean, so overall it can't be really considered because of like, this weird interaction on this bug for this boss, but we can assume like I would have had, an extra 2 million damage or something on this boss. This boss has a lot of health, and you can add that to the overall. Probably would have been like 12k overall or something like that, but still very bad. Still very bad. I'm going to skip ahead to a couple of other key moments. So we do the woe skip over here, just to run out with high speed. This is that pack right before Ardenworld. What I want to see is this guy right here, the spirit. Like, I should have better single target damage, even if I don't have my Night Fight cooldown up, right? So I'm trying to. Oh, I guess we can't tell though. So okay, my overall is at 11.5, and the rogue is at 27. So if it goes up from here for me and down for him, then I was at least. Oh, okay. Well, okay. Not the best showing, unfortunately. All right, so we'll skip him too. I mean, whatever. Single target fights, single target build, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I was honest, right? I told you that this would be an awful key. So, uh, just so people don't think I only pad the keys with like my best keys. I do want to have like public records of my failures, just so like later on when I time like my first 37 DoS, we can go back and look at this. Um, the next, yeah, so okay, this is like a decent sized pull. This is a pretty good pull for the PLA build. It's like not that much higher than our max target cap. It's like 7, like 6 is like the highest we scale, but I end up doing very well here usually as PLA. And what am I doing here as this build? So Hailstorm, Hailstorm. I'm not a huge fan of Hailstorm. The only reason that I'm taking it is because it generates more Maelstrom stacks, and I'm pretty sure I remember to swap out the conduit to actually generate Maelstrom stacks when you have the Hailstorm spent. I guess it's not even Hailstorm spent. It's just ice Frost Shock spent. But that's great for this build. Obviously, that's like, you know, I felt like that was a reasonable compromise for like AOE versus single target, even though I'm doing a single target build. Like, it's still decent single target. It's not that much of a difference, and it's still more Maelstrom than it would have been to go with like Fire Nova. Even though you typically go, I think, with like Elemental Assault or something for raid. I don't raid too much, but here, okay, yeah, not a great showing. So I'm gonna skip ahead to the gnome boss. This is basically the first real pull of this dungeon for me. Like, this is the first boss. I don't die. Like, no more AoE. With all of us behind us, and I can actually test the build out. Like, okay, is this like worth running as judged by my overall compared to other people's overall, and what my overall would have been compared to PLA? So I've got everything up here. I do that. I do Elemental Blast. I send my dogs my IQD. I should do my Wind Fury Totem, but I'm so... Well, I think I just sacrificed my haste buff for what I wanted to be the gem buff, except looks like it was yoinked by the Warlock. That's fine. I still don't have Wind Fury Totem down, but I'm doing very, very well in single target here. So this is like 18k single target with nothing really up to pad with. I should have had more because I should have stayed in my Dreamweaver buff. I think Dreamweaver is probably like not practical, to be honest, in Mythic Plus. Like, just looking at even like this VOD review, maybe Naya or Karain. I'm not sure, to be honest, which one would be better. I guess like Naya would give you a big buff to your Hot Hands window if you got lucky while you actually had her mastery buff, whereas Karain would be pretty consistent damage on all of the packs before, as well as like constant damage for like, you know, top end and low end of bosses. I'll have to play around with Karain a little bit. I think I probably looked at the Sims a little bit too closely here in terms of performance, but I mean, so far in this fight, like, I am doing better than I would have done as PLA on Tyrannical Week for bosses, but not so much better that it's worth like the massive opportunity cost. Like, I'd probably be around 10k right now as PLA on this boss, whereas right now I'm like, you know, I'm like, I don't know, like 2 or 3k higher, which is pretty good. If the thing that was going to break our key was boss damage, and we just happened to have like massive AoE damage the entire time, then maybe it could be worth it. But yeah, it definitely doesn't. It actually, it does feel pretty good to play. Like, this is a really fun build, but in terms of overall, and now I actually have the same problem judging this that I have with my Shadow Priest. It's like, okay, if I'm gonna specialize in single target, which is what I was trying to do with Shadow Priest as well when I was still heavily playing Shadow Priest, which I'm not giving up on, but like, I better be doing better than like other people that aren't specializing exclusively in single target. Like, if I can't beat the Warlock when I'm specialized, then why the hell am I even gonna try, right? Like, that's my thinking. Like, at least I should just, you know, fulfill some niche that he can't fulfill and I can, and be really good at it and excel there. Whereas, like, why bother just competing with him, you know, when I'm worse? Like, why don't we just have 2 Warlocks then, right? Well, the reason would be that I have the Magic Lust button, which is like a really stupid reason, right? That doesn't feel great to justify bringing the class. But PLA doesn't have that problem, obviously. PLA, like, really good. Like, really flexible, but it has like this RNG problem with single target where like it might suck. Well, I got 3 fire dogs, but it looks like, yeah, see, like, I have 3 fire dogs, but no hot hands. So I got 1 lava lash out, and it was, like, only 12k. So, like, that... Oh, I guess, I mean, this isn't even primal lava actuators, but you can see, like, even in this build, there's RNG problems. So I do finish top overall, so, like, that's something. I probably would have been around what the rogue was at. So that's like a 2k DPS difference on the boss, which isn't trivial, but is that 2k worth 5k overall? I don't know about that actually. So and now let's see. Okay, so let's see my single target. I think we have this spirit right now. Another decent single target fight. I think the rogue happens to have CDs for this, and he deletes it before I can really even do anything seriously to this. And I don't have my Night Fae ability, so this is like a good representation of like what your downtime pulls like. Like you have no Maelstrom, you go in, you start doing everything. You have to build everything up for Elemental Blast, and I'm doing like 12. But even on this pull, like all of those little masks, there's like a brief moment where you can just like use them as funnel on this guy and do big damage. So I think I'm probably doing a pretty bad job of keeping Elemental Assault on cooldown, but like yeah, like the rogue is like just doing 20k here, single target, so he can use those as funnel probably a lot easier than I can actually, because his funnel is instant. All he has to do is like Shuriken Storm them, and he gets like all these free combo points that he can channel in. Whereas like we have to like, you know, do 1 lava lash to spread them around. They have to accumulate for a while to go into primal lava actuators to actually buff up our lava lashes. So it's not like, it's not instant. It's like I can't take advantage of it as good as a rogue can. But so here, let me skip ahead to the Hakar bars, because Hakar I did a lot better than I usually do with PLA, but the Warlock still beats me, so that makes me very sour on this build. Maybe future version of this build, maybe I just go like Necro PLA build, except just use Witch Doctors instead of PLA if I want like a little bit of single target, but then you lose the funnel, you know, you lose the flexibility. But the problem with me not being able to do this is like, you know, one of the cool things about Enhance was that you have all these different builds you can run, and like fewer of them are viable than I initially, you know, thought they were. So yeah, like with the Warlock, he's like going to the moon. What is this? What is 43k on Hakar? Just like doing nothing. Like there's no ads to pad, you know, just a little old and I have him too. So I'm doing the same as the rogue. I guess I'm doing like a bit higher than the rogue, but I did move out of the flowers again. But I should be using Elemental Blast here. Okay. So I think I remember looking at my overall here, and my top damage on this fight was actually Frost Shock, which I guess isn't too surprising. Like there are a lot of ads here to pad with Frost Shock, but every single time I justify like doing more damage through ads, it's always a point in favor of, oh yeah, and and I got booped up in the air because of a storming tornado when I was doing my Night Fae ability. So like just another point, you know, against having Night Fae. Positional abilities are just like so bad. But yeah, every time that I end up padding through ads, it's always the case that PLA would have been better, because those ads could have had Flame Shock on them, and I could have had a Hot Hands window. And a Hot Hands window with ads is like just the best thing in the world for Enhance. Probably better than the burst window that I would have gotten from Witch Doctor Wolfbones. And if I look at my overall and compare it to like what the rogue is doing, like I'm probably like right around rogue or just below rogue, so it's looking like a little bit like, I don't know, like the last one too. Like I'm probably gaining like 2 to 3k DPS from Witch Doctor Wolfbones, and Hakar did get deleted, to be fair. Like how long was that fight? But if I go back 2 minutes, so we beat him in just under 2 minutes. That's pretty good. Now unfortunately Uzala, who is the reason I went Witch Doctor Wolfbones, I end up not downing the totem because I used my Earth Ellie to stand in Hakar's goo stuff on the floor to keep doing damage. So I don't have Earth Ellie for the totem phase, and I end up like being like too scared to get close enough to the totem, and I get pretty bad RNG as well on the totem, even as Wolf Doctor Wolfbones. I am doing all cooldowns right now. I assume because we have that it should be up in time. Should be about like 20 or 30 seconds off of your cooldowns. So if I go back in if we kill her sooner, at least like 20 seconds before the end, I should have my fade back up, and I think I do. But now we have, okay, so I have Hot Hands window with herb buff, which is constant lava lashes, but lava lashes without primordial wave aren't like that good. Like they're like 7k, 7k. It's like 7k a second. So, I mean that's like 7k DPS, right? Maybe a little less because it's not actually a second. It's like whatever my GCD is. I think it's like 1.2 seconds. Although I guess, yeah, because in this build I don't have the lava lash buff. I traded it off for Hailstorm or for Frost Shock, whatever, onto it. So it's not even that good. But here's the reason that I'm even doing this. I have Wolves up, I do Night Fae, I do Elemental Blast with IQD, and I expect to be blasting right now. And I am, to be fair, doing the most on this fight. Like, I'm just getting fucked up by all these like really unlucky placements of these things. So I had to heal myself. I'm still desperately trying. We've got 10 seconds left, and like, yeah, there's like nowhere for me to go. Like, this is just like the worst RNG for these stars. I do kill him, but I can't fully. Yeah, it was like literally a millisecond more, and I would have gotten it down, and then the experiment would have been worth it. But somehow, like the worst star placement in the world, like eating up my lightning bolts, forcing me to heal myself. Maybe I should have just potted instead. That probably would have been enough to finish off the totem, and then I actually could have had like the extra millisecond, literally 1 millisecond. But I wanted it to be like obvious. Like I didn't want to have to like do it in with like a millisecond to spare. Like that, the entire point was I was supposed to. Oh, by the way, look at this. I realize in real time here that you can just move forward to avoid those stars instead of backwards, and you can go right up there. That's nice. I wanted it to be like not based on RNG. Like I should like blast that totem away immediately, right? There should be no question if PLA would have been better, because if there is, then there's no point at all in like even deciding if or even trying this build, because the only advantage it has is single target, and the opportunity cost is massive. So I am doing by far the most on this fight, so that is something, but that ends up not mattering because we couldn't one phase it anyway, even though I do finish this fight with the most overall. So the rest of the fight is obviously just like uninteresting because we're all going to go and destroy this totem together, so it doesn't matter anymore. So if we skip ahead to the end of this fight, we can see my overall at the end, and it's pretty abysmal. Both of them have like sufficient tier now, and another thing that I'm a little worried about is I don't seem to be scaling as well in Mythic Plus with tier as they do. Like our tier like isn't very good for Mythic Plus, which is like the only type of content I care about. So I probably would have had like maybe like 13k, 12.5k if I didn't die on Ardenwald boss, but I mean I could have had like 16k, right? Like is 3k overall worth 2k on boss damage? Like I think, I don't know. Maybe it could be, maybe it couldn't be. Maybe I can make a compromise for a different kind of build with Witch Doctor. I'm not sure, but as of right now, I'm probably gonna put down the Witch Doctor for a while, because every single time I try and do something besides PLA, it ends up being like worse. Except for like niche like fortified Skybreaker, Fiery Demise builds. Like that one actually is the only one that ends up being maybe viable in some situations. But yeah, if people are worrying or wondering about can I do like Night Fae Witch Doctor in Mythic Plus, like the answer is if you're better than me at it and you really want single target, then maybe. That's my best answer that I have for you right now. So good luck on your own experiments, and let me know if they actually pan out, or maybe there's like some better hybrid build I should be using. See you next time.